All right,
Hey,
guys. Last topic.
who the hell is Neil Young?
He's a singer songwriter from like the 50s,
And that's our last topic.
and that's how we
Great
start off our
introduction.
last stuff.
I but can you name me a song of his? Because
Nah, this is before our
supposedly
time.
he went ahead and said that he doesn't want Spotify to play music as long as Joe Rogan's on there.
Because
But
he's
who's the
spreading
playing his
misinformation.
music?
I don't know. All I know is Spotify took a $4 billion hit after they took off Neil Young for, I guess, bad publicity. But that kind of tells you how much money they're making with Rogan. That they made a
Right.
business decision to keep Joe Rogan on. I got my look. I don't.
I
But
I
like,
don't want to go down the
look,
road. Nah.
to
Okay.
go up against Joe Rogan, what do you need? You need Spotify. You need Drake to be like, dude, if you don't get rid of Joe Rogan, you can't play my music. Then Spotify might have a decision to make. But I
Right.
didn't know
right.
who Neil Young was until this happened.
Yeah.
And nobody that I've spoken to has been able to name me a song.
Yeah.
Can
It's
you
not
name
our
me a song?
generation. Mm-mm.
I can't name you a song. I can now that I googled it, right?
Research. Yeah.
But I can tell you that I know who Neil Young was. I know that he's a singer songwriter,
Hmm.
and he's well past his prime of when his music was, what, 60s and 70s, probably in the 70s is when he was big. Um, so that I know, but I never went out of my way to listen to his music before the Spotify era, during the Spotify streaming era, and so
CDs,
the way that
cassettes.
Ben introduced it is actually perfect because he said it was a business decision. 3 days ago or 4 days ago, whenever this whole thing started, I decided to go look for the threads in Twitter to find out what was going on. And I
Hmm.
decided, I just like tweeted something, hey, sorry for your luck, Neil, but I'm pretty sure that you against Joe Rogan, Spotify's gonna is gonna choose Joe each and every time. And then
Yeah.
100%
people
of
that are
the time.
supporters of Neil Young started attacking me because they thought I was attacking Neil Young. And I was like, hey, nothing against Neil Young,
Mm-mm.
but Spotify has faced this already for the last year with Joe Rogan.
You
People
should have
coming.
directed them to the podcast. Be
Hey, I'm
like, don't
trying
worry,
to.
you'll get my explanation when you see the podcast.
I'm trying to. But that's why I interact with people on other threads instead of Ben who just posts on his own Twitter that no one's gonna see.
I'm
But
still
that's a
trying to figure it
conversation
out,
for
man.
a
All
different
right.
time.
Yeah.
But I got into it, and people were just saying like, Neil Young is great. Screw Joe Rogan. Spotify doesn't know what they're doing, and I was like, that's not the point I'm
Mm-mm.
making. What I'm saying is, it's a business decision. Joe
Hmm.
Rogan signed $100 million deal that we know of, and every time that it's come up, this issue with Rogan and his potential misinformation or topics that we shouldn't allow, Spotify has sided with Joe Rogan, which is this
Every time.
big guy that they signed just in the last year, and so it's
Number
not
one
going to
podcast
change
in
with
the world.
Neil. And
Nope.
I'm like, it's not going to change with Neil. And what happens 2 or 3 days later? They pull his music from Spotify. So it
Hmm.
wasn't an attack on Neil. It's just like look at the times. Spotify's going to make a
Hmm.
business decision. They're
Of
making more money
course,
keeping him on
of
than
course.
removing him. So
That, that was so ridiculous. When I saw that, I was like, what an idiot.
yeah,
Yeah, it would have to be
That made
somebody
no
like Drake.
sense. Yeah,
It would have
Drake,
to be
somebody
somebody
big,
like.
somebody that they care about losing. Right now,
Yeah,
who's
recently,
hard
yeah.
to lose? Drake,
Yeah.
maybe Kanye, even though I feel like his music sucks, but apparently he's still popular. I don't know.
right.
Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
got to be like a really big name. You're like, damn.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, Drake doesn't want to take the chance, even though he might win. He doesn't want to take the chance of losing out on Spotify. 'Cause he
Now,
might
because you're
lose.
losing out on money. I'm sure there's like crossover fans, people who like Rogan, who like Drake, right? I'm assuming like that's nobody that's why it's easier for Neil Young to have that stance though, because I don't know any current like artists that are huge that are like a Ed Sheeran, you know what I mean? Like name like Adele, Beyonce, anybody like that. I don't know if any of those type of artists that are modern, right? Modern would take that kind of stance because there's
Again,
money to be
Because
made,
everybody's about the
Neil
money.
Young, Neil Young is 76 years old. This is
right?
not to say that his music wasn't great. I didn't listen to it, but
Never
his
have.
fans,
I'll say it. His
think
music isn't
about
great.
who you listen to, right? You grew up
I
listening
know
to people
about I
that
know
are
about old
already
music. I never heard about that guy.
Stevie Nicks.
Jesus, this guy
Stevie
doesn't
Nicks
want to
came
hear
out.
it. He doesn't want to hear about anything. He's like, I know Cindy Lauper, but Neil Young, I don't know anything about Neil Young.
Aretha
Stevie
But
Nicks.
the
Franklin, The
truth is that he's
Temptations, Elvis, The Beatles.
That was
all right. There you go.
okay.
Bill
I mean,
Withers.
Bill Withers, yeah.
He
What you
knows
know
some
about
Bill
Will?
Withers.
People Bryson? What you know about?
Oh
You know what
my
I mean?
God, you don't know about. All right.
Joe Cocker.
Anyway,
I mean, listen, but it is. Joe Cocker was white, dude. I had no idea who Joe Cocker was. White. Legitimately, till like I saw some performance like this motherfucker was white because he sounds black as shit. But yeah, Neil Young was gonna lose that one 100% of the time, regardless of how much I disagree with the lane that Rogan went down when he moved to Texas. Like,
right.
it was easy to like. It's the number one podcast in the world, man. It's 100 million like hundreds of millions of downloads each month. All the people that follow him, you know what I mean? Like, it's too big. Like, it's the number one show really on. It's 5 days a
Do
week.
you think that he's really spreading lies? I don't listen to that show. I'm not a big Joe Rogan fan, but he really wanted it to stop because he's spreading COVID-19 lies.
Yeah, I mean, he is.
Here's what I think is going on. The Rogan Show, it's not that he's spreading lies. Is that before, when I used to listen and watch the show,
Yep.
there were conversations being had back and forths like we're doing right now. And over the last year or so, he said a lot more people, definitely a lot more people that are just agreeing with his point of view. But he also just kind of tosses some softball questions and then he lets them go on for 30 minutes at a time.
Unchallenged, like
And
you know what I mean?
unchallenged, and then he just lets them talk, and he doesn't, and he won't say like I agree, or sometimes he'll be like, "Are you sure? Is that right?" But what people have, so he's not himself saying this stuff is fake. I mean, in some cases, Rogan is going out there and saying, "Yeah, this is like the whole ivermectin thing, like or the whole don't get vaccinated thing."
No.
He went out ahead and said that, "Hey, if you're young, I don't think you should." Again, that's not medical
agree.
advice. In his opinion, if you're young, I don't think you should. But so
I
he
agree.
has all these other so-called experts that have been deplatformed. Some of them are no longer on Twitter or any other place, and he has them on his show. And then they talk about their point of view, and so that's why people are saying that he's spreading lies because he's just bringing these people on that don't have a platform. They come on Joe Rogan's platform, and then they give their point of view, and they have their
To a lot of
quote
people.
unquote discussion.
Yeah,
And
to
he's
hundreds
got
of millions of people.
millions of listeners. Even people that aren't Rogan fans will tune in possibly when they're looking for podcasts and listen to some of that stuff. So that's the problem that people have. He has a big platform, and people that don't have a platform with controversial views are speaking their mind. So
We're gonna say that.
makes sense.
Yeah, like
I've never
a
listened
couple-
to the show. Never have I cared about watching that show. I think the guy's not funny. He used to be on a show called Radio, I think it was, and
News
I thought he
Radio.
was one of the thought he was one of the worst characters on the show. Like I've never liked that guy. I don't know why everybody's obsessed with him.
Well, the reason why I'll tell you like this. Look, I'll say this. Like, this podcast was inspired. Like, the reason why we started a podcast was because of Rogan, because what Rogan used to be was an intellectually curious person, right? Like, he would have people on,
right,
and he would be almost a student, right? Where like he was like, oh, okay, he'll have Neil deGrasse Tyson and like all these different people, you know what I mean, to learn about different shit that he was curious about. And once he moved to Texas, he became the author, right? Like, where he became like, oh my, I want to have people to like echo my point of view. So like, I wouldn't listen to Rogan to listen to Rogan. I would listen to Rogan to listen to the people he had on. Like, I would, yeah. So
Right.
his guests, because like he's having people on that are interesting, right? And I was like, oh man, I want to learn. I want to hear about Neil deGrasse Tyson, or I want to learn more about Kamaru Usman, or you know what I mean, like different. He's had 2,000 podcasts at this point, so you can't go. You could go through them, but like once that happened, where like he's just having an echo chamber, it was like having the same podcast over and over, right? Where like if he's a person that can have doctors on, right, like real like epidemiologists and people that like to explain the shit, which he did have on when he was in California. And he was super pro-vaccine. Oh, why wouldn't anybody get the vaccine and all that shit? Moves to Texas, questions everything, only has people who question the vaccine, question Matt, all that shit. Like California, different Rogan.
You never had somebody from the left on the show?
He did, right? He has, but not as much. Yeah. Not recently, where he's having only right-wing people or people that agree with his point of view. He had like this Australian reporter that challenged him on his COVID stuff. And he was like so sure, and then like they Googled it right then and there, and it showed Rogan was wrong. He was like, well, when I saw it back in August, it said this. It was like, oh, then he's like, he started questioning the thing that he was just seeing that questioned him. I mean, so he got like on, like, because they do it live just like we do, right? Like there's no editing, they post it. And then Rogan even had to go out and be like, oh no, I was wrong. but then what he shared on his Twitter was a thing that he was wrong about, sharing the same one that he was wrong about back in August. Wasn't one like the new information that he got that was like, oh shit, I was wrong about this. This is what it should be. It was like, see, but this is what I saw back in August. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, and the argument that he had with the guy, I think his name was like Josh Zepps. The argument that he had with the guy was about younger people not having less issues with the COVID vaccine than they would with COVID, like the long term like heart issues or whatever the fuck it was. And like Rogan was wrong, and like Rogan shared how Rogan was wrong, the link to Rogan being wrong, not the new information that Josh Zepps was like, nah man, you're wrong, and this is what you should be sharing. So like he has people like that. You know what I mean? So it's like it became different. So that's the misinformation that he's doing, where like it's just an echo chamber of shit that he's saying the same shit to himself. Right? Like he's not having other doctors.
Somebody would
go ahead.
I wish somebody would start a podcast where they write down the middle, like where like if they weren't left or right. Like if I had a podcast where I could just
that's what Rogan
challenge
used to be.
people to both sides, I'd have the left and the right. You remember that,
Right.
the thing they used to do like in middle school, left nut, right nut, dick in the middle? I'd call my podcast Dick in the Middle. Like that would be
Right.
the name of my podcast. And I would just
Right.
have people from the left and from the right and just challenge both of them. Because I feel like
Right, that's what
you can agree with both sides. Like I don't understand why everybody has to stick to one side. So fucking
that's what Rogan
hardcore.
That's the thing though. That's what made Rogan so popular, because that's what Rogan used to be. Rogan one day would have Dan Crenshaw, which is like a Republican congressman, and the next day had Bernie Sanders when he was running for president. You know what I mean? Like
There you
that's
go.
what Rogan did. But now Rogan doesn't do that. Rogan has these people who are Alex
But I feel like
Jones.
he's so tied to the right now.
Yeah, it's too far. It's
Yeah.
gone so far that was like, and again, he's if he was having those conversations with doctors, like he's having those conversations with doctors, like other or comedians, other people that really don't know shit, that like read 2 or 3 articles and now are like the masters of all they survey. So it's weird, and that's the problem Neil Young had with it, which I understand his issue with it, but he was never going to win that debate. Like Rogan is
Right.
too huge. Rogan gets covered by CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, as if he's something to cite. When
Yep.
Rogan at the beginning was just like he would self-describe himself as like a dumb ape, but now he thinks of himself as an intellectual, which makes it problematic for me.
Yeah. And Neil Young is not relevant.
Yes,
I'm sure that his music inspired a lot of people and a lot of musicians, but in this day and age, he's not relevant. I think the point he brings up is relevant, right? But like Danny said, you have to be someone like Drake, someone that has some kind of pull, some kind of popular artist
To
that
go against
says,
Joe
I'm
Rogan, for sure.
yeah, exactly. Because as a Neil Young, how many plays is his music getting? Spotify looks at immediately when Neil Young does that, they just look at their stats and they say, "Oh no, we'll drop Neil Young. I don't care. we'll take the hit in our stock dropping,
Yeah.
and then it'll recover in a couple of weeks because everyone will forget about it."
Yeah.
100%.
yeah, that $4 billion meant nothing. Like that's how much money Spotify is making on Rogan. They could lose $4 billion a day, and we're like, nah, we'll be fine.
That's how much
Like
your
other
stock
people-
went up when they signed them 2 years ago, right? 4 billion
Yeah,
overnight.
no, 8.
because they
I think it went
8 billion.
8 billion. So they're good.
But
They're in the positive,
Spotify
man.
has to be careful though, because they don't want to be viewed as being tied to the right, because the left runs the music and all those industries. So if they start getting tied to just the right, like don't be surprised if all of a sudden they have a new podcast with like Bernie Sanders on it. Like they're not
Well,
stupid.
no.
They're gonna figure out how to please both sides.
Yeah, they got to figure,
Yeah.
because it's money, right? Like you don't just try to take half the money, you try to take all of it, and that's the again, like, because Neil Young isn't a sacrifice, and it's not hurting them in any way, because like the 17 people who however many people listen to Neil Young, you know what I mean?
How many
isn't
people
gonna
wrote back
be
to you, John?
What's that?
How many people wrote back to you?
There was one guy actually who was a radio host in Colorado, and you think about Colorado, and I think John Denver, even though he's not from Colorado, I'm like, this dude is definitely a Neil Young fan. He's an
John
older
Denver,
dude.
just because of the last name.
Yeah, he's an A. It was an older guy in Colorado, I believe, and he was like an AM DJ, right, or host for a show for the radio station, and yeah, again, like one of his last messages was, I don't know if I misread you, and then he gave me his information or his comment about like why he sides with Neil Young, and I just responded to, yeah, no problem. I wasn't attacking Neil Young. I'm just telling you what's going to happen based on statistics and based on historical decisions that Spotify has made. they're going to side with Joe Rogan. It's not that Neil Young's music is trash or that he's not correct. Is that he's not Drake. He's not Jay-Z. He's not someone who has pull taking a stand. For them, Neil Young he's inconsequential.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like one of those like 12 players on the NBA bench. It's like, hey, if this vaccine shit doesn't change, I'm retiring. That means
All right.
The 12th man on the bench.
All right.
All right, we're gonna miss you, bro. All right, take care, man.
Yeah.
G League, what up? You got somebody down there?
Exactly.
Hey,
We got an
Hey,
opening.
can we get John Crotty on the team?
Shit. That's out here. Marty
Ridiculous.
Conlon out here. Who
It's,
cares?
it's one of those city stadiums. Somebody has no pull. That's a pull power move.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense. I see what it was trying to do, but it was gonna be a failure regardless. All right, guys, I got nothing else. Y'all got something else for the people?
No. Rams and Niners tied in the fourth quarter, so that should be a cool finish.
All right,
That's about
we'll
it.
watch that, and we probably won't talk about it on Wednesday's show because it'll be too
Oh,
late.
what about Brock and Ronda coming back?
Nobody
No
cares,
love for
bro.
Brock and Ronda?
No, Brock came back 8 months ago. Let it go. This isn't.
You're right.
Yeah. He had the short hair, then he had the long hair, and now he's a fucking cowboy. We all
Yeah,
good
he
over
looks kind
here.
of weird. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little strange, bro. He's like just be a dick. That's all Brock needs to do.
No,
Just be
but
the
I
bad
mean,
guy.
I'm still terrified of the man.
Oh no, 100%. Listen, I'll say this on here.
Look,
If he sees me ever say it, I will apologize on every podcast for the rest of my life. That man is terrifying.
oh, for sure. If he smacks Jenny, I'm gonna be like, look at Jenny, but you just got snapped because I'm not
Yeah,
doing shit
exactly.
about it. I'm not doing shit about
I'm
it.
a witness.
I saw what he did to
I'm
your
just-
face. Imagine what he was doing to mine.
Exactly. Shit, I was a witness. I was there. I'll tell somebody what happened. I ain't doing
That's
shit.
it.
John, you got anything else, brother?
Yeah, one thing. There's a series on Netflix I've been telling you two fools about. It's called Home
For
Game.
sure, it's international, and I need to fucking put subtitles for sure, right?
Fine, watch it with subtitles. It is because it's
I
called
knew
Home
it.
Game.
I knew it.
It's called Home Game. Let me
Get
get
some
my
culture.
plug out.
Yeah,
Get some
yeah.
culture. It's called Home Game, and it's 6 or 7 episodes about different games or sports that are country or region specific. And one of the episodes is called Calcio Storico. It's something that's played in Florence, and it's a mixture of sort of like MMA and football. You got to
Rugby or
watch it.
some
These
shit?
people, they play it every year. They played it since 1530, and they play 2 matches a year, a semifinal and a final. It's 4 regions in Florence, and so it is so brutal that the tournament is 4 teams, and it's 2 games. The semis or
Well,
3
yeah.
games. 2.
God damn.
Yeah, because and the players that play in the semis usually don't play in the final because it's 9 days later and people have like broken bones.
Okay.
Just watch
You
it.
sold me.
Calcio
You sold
Storico.
You sold me.
I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm in.
you sold
I'm
me.
in. I'm in.
They're monsters, and it's 23 minutes, and it's
I'll watch it.
Look,
I
I
love
will-
my UFC. I love my UFC, and I love
No, I'm not a
Gladiators.
fan of UFC, but that sounds interesting.
I love Gladiators, and these guys are doing it in this essentially what looks like a gladiator arena.
I
And it's
will
in
say
Italy.
this. I will say this about John. The man, every show he's ever recommended to me has been good. He has not failed me yet. So if he's recommending it, definitely check it out. I'll check it out after we finish watching The Rescue on Disney Plus about the soccer
You guys
team
aren't
that
watching
got
Ozark?
trapped. Nah, not watching Ozark. I stopped watching
great
like
show.
season 3 or some shit.
Really?
Season 2, I think. Yeah, I don't know why. I just got caught up with other shit. But it's up there. At some point, we'll watch it. We have to
You
watch
don't
The
it.
read
people don't want to hear
subtitles.
this, Ben. Can you just cut the show? The people don't want to hear that you.
Yeah, we
ramble
out,
on
man. We
about
out.
the
We'll
show
talk
you're not
about this offline. Yeah.